Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of the Shishir Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning class. This morning, we are happy to have His Grace Vishnugada Prabhu here with us, and he'll be sharing with us Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, verses 15. And we are in the middle of the discussion between the sages of Namisha Sharanya with Sri Sutta Goswami. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please. Vanchakrapatibhyascha kripa sindhabhevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And it's all yours, Prabhu.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So that you were playing Srila Prabhupada kirtan there.
Yes, Prabhu.
Do you know where that's from?
No.
Somebody got your daughter got it?
Yeah, from YouTube.
Okay. I like it. There was a few things there in the kirtan that was interesting. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada the tune went down, but the devotees went up.
Oh.
If you look at it, it's very interesting. Anyway.
Do you know where it's from, Prabhu?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I was thinking that just came to my mind as I was listening. But thank you for playing Srila Prabhupada there.
Thank you, Prabhu.
It'd be interesting because Srila Prabhupada was chanting the morning tune also. And it could have been in the morning. I don't know if it might have been.
That's right. I didn't. Yeah, that is the morning tune. That's right. Yes.
And some devotees say you're not supposed to chant that at any other time of the day. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, some like Bhakti Vikas Swami says that. I never heard that, but other from him. But anyway, it'd be interesting to know when Srila Prabhupada chanted that. It was a morning class or morning kirtan, or it was later in the day. We'll see.
Yes, Prabhu.
Because Srila Prabhupada, in relation to tunes to chant, so a devotee named Ekayani from New York wrote Srila Prabhupada a letter asking if there's any particular tunes that are bona fide. Have you heard this?
No, I have not, Prabhu. And what did Srila Prabhupada say?
He responded, he said, as long as you chant Hare Krishna, any tune is bona fide.
Haribol.
So, but of course, sometimes tunes are hard to follow, so better to chant some that everybody can participate, but still, that's what he said at that time. So
the simple tunes, yes, Prabhu.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
And I encourage devotees who are not at work or at home, they can unmute themselves and chant along, because that's my request, if you don't mind. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Thank you. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamunatira
Vanachari
Vanachari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya
Radha
Radha
Madhava
Madhava Kunja
Vihari
Bihari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha
Rama
Madhava
Yadava
Kunja Bihari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari.
Gopi
Gopiya
Janavallabha Girivaradhari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari.
Jaya
Gopi
Gopiya
Janavallabha
Devaradari
Girivaradhari.
Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana.
Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribraja Kacharya Ashtottara Satashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Shami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai,
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai.
Jai,
ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai,
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai,
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय।
Jai,
श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरी गोवर्धन की जय।
Jai,
वृंदावन धाम की जय।
Jai,
नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय।
Jai,
गंगा माई की जय।
Jai,
जमुना माई की जय।
Jai,
तुलसी देवी की जय।
Jai,
भक्ति देवी की जय।
Jai,
समवेता भक्त वृंद की जय।
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine. Some devotees ask me why I don't chant Hare Krishna or Jaya Prabhupada at the, after Jaya Radha Madhava. Any guesses why?
I
Srila Prabhupada
didn't.
didn't do it. Srila Prabhupada
Yeah,
did
Yes.
not
that's right.
do it.
That's right. Yeah, so Prabhupada just chanted Jaya Radha Madhava, nothing else. So anyway. Well, it's nothing wrong, but still. Anyway. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're reading and studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 18th chapter, 15th verse. Tanno bhavan vai bhagavat pradhano mahattamai kanta parayanasya harer udaram charitam vishuddham shushushatam no vitanotu vidvan. Tanno bhavan vai bhagavat pradhano mahattamai parayanasya harir udaram charitam vishuddham shushushatam no vitunatu vidvan. Tanno bhavan vai bhagavat pradhano mahattamai parayanasya harir udaram charitam vishuddham shushushatam no vitunatu vidvan. Please chant.
Anno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Mahatma Mahatme Kanta Paraya Nasya Hare Udaram Charitam Vishuddham Vishushatam No Vitanutu Vidvan. Hare Krishna.
Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Mahatmaikanta Parayanasya Hare Udaram Charitam Vishuddham Shushushatam no Vitanotu Vidvan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. तन्नो भवान् वे भगवत् प्रधानो महत्मेकान्तपरायणस्य हरेर् उदारं चरितं विशुद्धं श्रुषुषतां नो वित्नोति विद्वन्.
Tat, therefore, na, of us, bhavan, your good self, vai, certainly, bhagavat, in relation with the personality of Godhead, pradhana, chiefly, mahattama, the greatest of all greats, ekanta, exclusively, parayanasya, all of the shelter, hare, of the Lord, udaram, impartial, charitang, activities, vishuddham, transcendental, sushushratam, those who are receptive, ta, na, ourselves, vitanotu, kindly describe, vidvan, O learned one. I think I forgot to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right? I think I forgot. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Maybe I can just put it in right here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Prabhu, actually, you did it because I
I did.
remember repeating after you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Memories. Okay, translation. O Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Purport. The speaker on the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the audience for such topics should be anxious to hear about it. When such a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then and there very much congenial to continue discourses on the transcendence. Professional speakers and a materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourses. Professional speakers make a show of the Bhagavat Saptaha for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hears such discourses of the Bhagavat Saptaha for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of the senses, or liberation. Such Bhagavatam discourses are not purified from the contamination of the material qualities. But the discourses between the saints of Naimisharanya and Sri Sutta Goswami are on the transcendental level. There is no motive for material gain. In such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is relished, both by the audience and by the speaker. And therefore, they can continue the topics for many thousands of years. Now, Bhagavat Saptahas are held for 7 days only. And after finishing the show, both the audience and the speaker become engaged in material activities as usual. They can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavat Pradhana and the audience is not Shushushatam, as explained above. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Shayam Rupa Kadahmaikam Dadati Shapandantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before speaking, I'd like to ask for the blessings and the permission of all the devotees, but particularly those who are senior by age or by advancement in Krishna consciousness, or both.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Lord Srila Prabhupada.
So this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, you've been going through various verses in this chapter, and this is an unusual chapter because I don't know if you noticed, but in this chapter, the description of Maharaj Parikshit's being bitten or being cursed to be bitten by the snake bird is described earlier in the chapter. Did you notice that? But actually, the action didn't happen until later. The details of it are described much later. So that's very interesting. The actual word, do you remember the actual Sanskrit word for the antagonist that bites Parikshit is takshaka, snake bird. Sometimes Prabhupada says snake, and sometimes he says snake bird. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen a snake bird. So I was thinking about that over time,
Is
And
it like a snake with wings, Prabhu? Like really a bird-looking snake? I've never seen one.
That's a good point. Good question.
I'm just wondering.
We could have a discussion. Of course, that's not the point of this verse, but just an interesting. So I was reading. I was reading some article someplace about. I maybe did a search about animals that fly, and so I came across an article that NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, was studying these snakes that live in Southeast Asia. And apparently there's snakes that live in, they go into trees, and they are able to jump from one tree to another over long distances, over 100 yards, 100 yards. Yeah. And what they do is they flatten out their bodies, and they slither in the air, and somehow the slithering in the air and the flattening out of their bodies allows them to travel a good distance in the air. So NASA was studying how those. Okay, yeah, dear Krishna Prabhu says that, yeah. And so it's like this. I don't remember the specific name of that snake, but the National Aeronautics and Space Administration was studying these kind of snakes for maybe use in their using in their jet propulsion plans, from their mechanical jet propulsion plans. So I thought, oh, maybe that's what the snake bird was. Okay. So then later, I came across a book that was entitled Gold Eating Ants and Winged Snakes. Gold Eating Ants and Winged Snakes. And it was a history. There was a Greek historian. He is sometimes considered the father of Western history. His name was Herodotus. And he was around the 5th century BC. And he wrote some histories. He traveled around what we call now the Middle East, Greece, and Arabia, and that part of town. So anyway, he wrote some histories of the ancient world. He described some of the people and the customs of people that he met. But there were 2 sections of the book. One section was what he experienced personally, and the other section was what he heard from reliable sources. So that both of those made up his history. So in the first part, which was what he experienced personally, he was traveling somewhere in the Middle East, and he was traveling with a couple of companions, and they came to a valley that was kind of cut off from the rest of the country. And in that valley, there were thousands and thousands of snakes with wings. Herodotus. So I don't know. So people nowadays say, modern historians say that he's sometimes a fabricator, but many of the things that he says, of course, are accurate today. So he had 2 sections, right? The section what he experienced personally, and the section that he heard from reliable others. So this was in the section he experienced personally. So it's very interesting. So just because we don't see the snake birds in our backyard, or when we go through the forests of Pennsylvania, doesn't mean they didn't exist or they haven't existed. So that snake bird is there. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that in. I thought that was an interesting point. Srimad Bhagavatam is true in all ways. So this particular verse, the sages are glorifying Sutta Goswami because he is a learned and pure devotee. Why is he a learned and pure devotee? Well, one reason is because he's dedicated, surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and not exclusively. I think it was a person who has many masters, they have no masters. So Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the master of all devotees, Vaishnavas. And so that's Sutta Goswami's qualification here. Sometimes we find that those who speak on transcendental subjects or spiritual subjects or supposedly spiritual subjects, they say things like, take any Param Shakti. Have you ever heard that? It doesn't matter. But the important thing is to have devotion or bhakti. So you can have bhakti for Krishna, you can have bhakti for Ram, you can have bhakti for Shiva, you can have bhakti for Durga. Have you ever heard this? This is a very common view, and this is called impersonalism. In fact, there was a speaker, a famous reciter of the Ramayana. I don't know, he's not so famous anymore probably, but he used to be famous, and they had a big gathering at the Jacob Javits Center in New York. You know the Jacob Javits Center? It's like gigantic. It covers a whole city block. It's for big conventions. It's in New York on the kind of the Midwest side by the river. Anyway, it was rented. The whole thing was rented for this person's presentation of the Ramayana, which was really the Ramcharitamanas. But anyway, so he started out with this saying. He says, started up. It doesn't matter. Take any Param Shakti. Take any Ram, Krishna, Durga, Shiva. It doesn't matter. That was his beginning. So it may be good for entertainment, but for actually developing and purifying the heart and making progress in spiritual life, it's not possible. It won't work. In order for spiritual development and the spiritual consciousness to be invoked, the speaker should be, as mentioned here, a pure and elevated devotee. And that person, because they have the Supreme Personality of Godhead within their heart, they can give to others. But a non-devotee or materialist can't do that. People would approach Swarup Damodar, who was Lord Chaitanya's personal secretary in Puri, and many times they would ask him, Swarup Damodar, because it was known that Lord Chaitanya, he advocated the study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Amalam Puranam, the spotless Purana. It was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially put emphasis on that, as you're doing here today. So you're following Lord Chaitanya's instructions. Very good. So Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, he would say, Bhagavata Paragiya, Bhagavata Sthane. Nice words. Bhagavata Paragiya, Bhagavata Sthane. He said, if you want to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, that's very good. You have to learn it from someone who's established in the principles of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not just an entertainment or something that you can do, as mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, to make some advancement in material life. You do some religious practice, dharma, so that you can get artha, economic wealth. Of course, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would chide, not often, but sometimes Srila Prabhupada would chide. There's a popular arti song that practically all Hindus know. Probably some of our audience also knows. Jai Jagadish Hari. Yeah, you know this one? Somebody knows. Yodhyave Palapave. Yodhyave Palapave. Whatever you think we meditate on, if you meditate on you'll get what you want. Palapave. You'll get your fruits. Palapave. Yodhyave Pala, you get what you want. Okay, that's actually that song was popularized in a movie. It's not a traditional scriptural song, but anyway. So sometimes there would be some chiding because, in general, us people who are absorbed in material things, we approach religion to see what are we going to get? What's in it for me? Yodhyave Falapave. So the famous presidential statement was, ask not what Krishna can do for you. Ask what you can do for Krishna. That's devotional service, right? But so generally, actually, I adjusted that. It was ask not what your country, but anyway. But generally, people approach religion and what are we going to get out of, what's in it for me? And so they go through different, rituals, thinking, after this I can enjoy much better. There's a famous, or maybe not so famous, but at least within the Indian community, very famous story from one of the Puranas, not a septic Purana, but it's called Satyanarayan Puja. Have you ever heard of that, Satyanarayan Puja? Satyanarayan Puja. It's something like the story of Job in the Bible. But anyway, it's a long story about how a person, he promises to do worship of Satyanarayan, which is a form of expansion, a form of Narayan. He agrees to worship Narayan, but then he doesn't do it. So many bad things happen to him. He loses so much of his property. But then finally at the end, he does Satyanarayan Puja and he gets all his stuff. He gets a lot of good things, a lot of material benefits. And so what's the moral of the story?
Do worship and get what you want.
Yeah, worship. So God is something like Santa Claus. It's something like Santa Claus. So worship and you get what you want. But that type of worship, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedvyas says, Dharma projita kaitavota paramo nirmatsaranam satam. He said, in the very beginning, they kick out any kind of religious practice that's materially motivated. Why? Because then that kind of religion will never satisfy you. Because why? Because we're not the gross material body. So no amount of material gain or material comforts will ever give solace to the real yearning of the soul. So, nirmatsaranam satam. So this truth is explained here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada is commenting on that, about how Sutta Goswami is representing that pure message of Srimad Bhagavatam to the hearers there in the forest of Naimisharanya, and hopefully, and we can also get the benefit through the grace of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, because that same message is being transmitted to us today through these literatures. And if we are pure in heart, receptive to the message, and not looking for what material things can we get out of it, then the result will be spiritual enlightenment, spiritual progress, going back home, back to Godhead. Just like if the man is potent and the woman is fertile, when they come together, there can be conception. If the man isn't potent or the woman isn't fertile, one or the other, nothing of value will happen. But together, the man potent, the woman fertile, then there's conception. So similarly, if the person giving the message of transcendental message is on the transcendental platform, actually on the transcendental platform, and the hearer is sincerely looking for spiritual life, not how to make some material arrangement for material happiness, then immediately the conception of spiritual life, the blooming of spiritual knowledge comes to the forefront. So this is good to know. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's the description of how when Lord Chaitanya, before he took the Sankirtan out publicly on the way to Chankazi's house, before that, he was holding Sankirtan every evening there was Sankirtan going on every evening at Srivas Thakur's house, nocturnal Sankirtan. And it was closed to the public, though. Do you know that? It went on for 1 year. So some people would come, and Lord Chaitanya, you know what he would say to or Lord Chaitanya or his associates would say, "Don't go home and chant. Go home and chant in your homes. Yeah, go chant. Do your chant in your homes." But one day, Srivas Thakur had an acquaintance who was a brahmachari and a Brahmin, and he subsisted only on drinking milk. So he wanted to get in. Nobody else was allowed in, but he wanted to get in and witness the Sankirtan of Lord Chaitanya with his associates. So Srivas Thakur smuggled him in. He was hiding somewhere, and he could see what was going on in the kirtan. And after some point, Lord Chaitanya he goes and he says, something's wrong here. There's something wrong. I cannot experience ecstasy properly here. There's something wrong. So finally, Srivas Thakur confessed. He said, "Yeah, I can't hide anything from you, O Lord." Of course, Lord Chaitanya knows anything already. But anyway, Srivas Thakur, he confessed, "Yeah, I brought this really pure brahmachari. He only drinks milk, and to witness the Sankirtan." So you know what Lord Chaitanya said? He said, "You think you can attain Krishna by just drinking milk? You think you can attain Krishna? Not possible." So in the commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that this brahmachari, even though he was relatively pure in his activities, but he had the idea that the Sankirtan was some kind of ritual for material advancement. And therefore he couldn't appreciate. He didn't have actual respect or appreciation for the transcendental nature of the activity of Harinam Sankirtan or transcendental devotional service. So you know what Lord Chaitanya did then? He kicked him out. So you got to be careful that might happen to us also. If we don't have appropriate respect, appreciation, and understanding of the transcendental nature of Harinam Sankirtan or the reading and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, if we think it's some kind of material arrangement to get advancement in material life, no, then we can't relish the transcendental taste. Here it's called they said that they can go on hearing this literature for thousands of years. Now, I don't know who here is ready to go on for the Srimad Bhagavatam class for 1,000 years. I don't know. But that's really saying something, isn't it? So on the other hand, were you going to say something? No. On the other hand, in the persons who are do Bhagavat Saptaha or do the speaking for material gain, they go on for a short period of time, and it's always they're thinking, well, how much money am I going to get paid for this? Spiritual life means doing things only exclusively for the pleasure of Krishna. Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttamam. Anyabilashita shunyam, not being freed from any other desire for jnana or for material gain or speculative knowledge. Jnana, karma, dhyana, and there's so many different varieties of that can infect a person's approach to spiritual life. It may be what we're thinking, what kind of material benefit in the form of money we can get out of it, or we're thinking what kind of fame we can get out of it, or we can get what kind of appreciation we can get from the opposite sex from doing something. So all kinds of infections can come into our consciousness. But pure devotee means that they are fixed in the idea and the message that the only reason I'm doing this, the only reason you're here at the Srimad Bhagavatam class today is because you want to please Krishna and your spiritual master. The only reason we're speaking here today. You're not paying me any money, I don't think. No, okay. That's good, it's good. If you paid me money, then I'd be in trouble. But but the only reason is because this literature and understanding this literature, understanding these Mahatma, great pastimes of the Lord, cleanses our heart, and so that we make progress in spiritual life and can actually live in a situation of transcendental enjoyment by giving enjoyment to Krishna exclusively. That's our plan. And, Srila Prabhupada would often quote the verse, Yasyatma buddhi, you know that one? Yasyatma buddhi kudape tridhatuke, svadhi kalatradishu bhoma ijadi, yatirtha buddhi salilena karhichit, janeshvabigeshu sa eva gokara. He'd say, and he's quoting Krishna, Lord Krishna, when he spoke to the kings who had been imprisoned by Jarasandha. They were in the cave, and each one Jarasandha was planning to cut their heads off and offer them to expansion of Lord Shiva, Kala Bhairava. Anyway, Yasyatma buddhi, kunape tridhatuke. Somebody, generally we think with this body, which is made of three, from the Ayurvedic point of view, three elements, Kapha, Pitta, and Vat, mucus, bile, and air, and we think that's ourselves. Svadhi kalapradishu bhoma ijadi, and we think our families, our kith and kin, and we think our land of birth is worshipable, and we go to a holy place just to have sightseeing, but we neglect to hear from the devotees of the Lord. This is a problem. And Lord Krishna says that kind of person. Now I don't say that, but Lord Krishna says that person is like a cow or an ass. Really strong language, isn't it? Yeah. So this hearing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's message through his pure devotee is so powerful, so potent, that it is wonderful to behold. If it's not from the pure devotee, though, if it's not from the elevated devotee, or the person who's pure in their desires, then it can cause trouble. Rupa Goswami says that as far as possible, and Srila Prabhupada quotes this in the On Chanting Hare Krishna lecture, or talk he gave, as far as possible, chanting from the lips of pure devotees you should try to hear that chanting of the lips of pure devotees. Why? This hearing chanting from the lips of non-devotees can have poisonous effect. And what is that poisonous effect? It'll just increase our material desires. So then I'll ask you a question here. Sometimes I remember when I went to India the first time, we had I first went to Mayapur. Then there was a program in Hyderabad. They had just built the Hyderabad temple, and at the nearby there was a big field, Maidan, and for several days in the evening time, Srila Prabhupada was invited to speak there, arranged by, of course, the devotees. and thousands and thousands of people showed up there on the list to hear Srila Prabhupada. Those were he spoke on from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the teachings of Rishabdev, Mahat Sevam Dvaram Mahurvi Mukti. By serving the great souls, the door to the liberation is open. Like that, he spoke. But at the beginning of every talk, some dignitary spoke, introducing Srila Prabhupada. And he would say something. And the first one, he was a member of parliament, some kind of, I think they call them MPs, is it? A member of parliament. And this person went on, and he was speaking all kinds of Mayavadi philosophy. It went on for maybe 10 minutes. And then finally, of course, he glorified Hare Krishna movement and ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada. So I was wondering, so why is this? Why is this? How is Prabhupada allowing this to go on? We heard, milk touched by the lips of a serpent can have poisonous effect. So what do you think? I'm asking that question. It's not a rhetorical question. What do you think? I mean, there's other situations, like, for example, I thought some of you read the history of ISKCON. There was a mantra rock dance in San Francisco in 1967. In 1967, in the, I don't know, there was a big auditorium, and so many rock groups were invited to also. They came, played, and also Allen Ginsberg, who happened to be a supporter of ISKCON at that time. And when they all came, people, it was a full audience. Srila Prabhupada came in and they chanted Hare Krishna after the few of the bands played. And according to the Miracle on Second Avenue, guess who Srila Prabhupada had chant?
Mother Jamuna? No.
No, Allen Ginsberg.
Oh,
Allen Ginsberg. At least he started, according to the Miracle on Second Avenue book. So why is that? Because usually we see Allen Ginsberg at the time was not following the four regulative principles, to say the least. But
was it
how is
because
that?
Prabhupada was trying to encourage or inspire him, Prabhu? Like,
What do you
that's
think?
what
I'm throwing this open for discussion because it's an important point to understand. I don't. I mean, Srila Prabhupada did that.
what's coming to my mind is, I mean, because Allen Ginsberg was a supportive, was so supportive of Prabhupada's movement and his preaching that I guess to inspire him and to encourage him, he allowed him to, allowed him to chant. That's what's coming to my mind a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
Like I was even thinking of one. I think if I heard it correctly, one time Sri Prabhupada allowed Mother Jamuna to sing, and
Oh yeah,
that's how
many
they,
times,
yeah,
Srila, many
just
times.
for and just to inspire and to encourage and I was just thinking from that angle.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have a commentary from Srila Prabhupada about it, but I'm it's a question. It's a question, and because at least the desire was pure. Yeah, dear Krishna Prabhu, he might not have the right knowledge initially. Yeah, yeah. So that's my take on it. I don't know if that's the all about it, but he wasn't getting any money. He wasn't getting any money for doing it, but he was doing it spontaneously for to help out and to serve Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. You know, so even though as dear Krishna Prabhu mentioned, his knowledge wasn't elevated, but pure devotee means pure devotional or pure devotional service means that they don't have any other motive for doing it. They're just doing it for the satisfaction of Krishna, or in this case, Krishna's pure devotee, right? So one doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, uh, such an elevated person, but if one does something purely only for Krishna's pleasure, then Prabhupada accepts. Same thing with this member of parliament, even though ultimately he was saying all kinds of nonsense, but he was doing it. He wasn't getting any benefit from it. I mean, any material thing, but he was doing it ultimately for the appreciation of Krishna Srila Prabhupada and the Hare Krishna's movement, the Hare Krishna movement. So that was so I'm taking it that that was Lord Krishna's and Srila Prabhupada's arrangement in that case. So we have to be careful though, because in prosecuting Krishna consciousness, the desire for material gain can sometimes infect us and deviate us from making spiritual progress. There's a famous story that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, because apparently back in his day, different villages used to get together and have kirtan competition. You know this? So each village would they do kirtans, and and they would hire somebody to go into ecstasy, and then the person would roll on the ground during the kirtan, all that stuff. So one village, would compete with another village, and they would go, one side would do into ecstasy, the other one to do into ecstasy. So then, so one village hired a kirtaniya for 4 rupees, no, 4 annas. I'm sorry, 4 annas, and they lost. And then so the people, they went to the kirtan and said, "Well, what happened? How come you lost?" They said, "Well," he said, "Well, how much ecstasy do you need? Do you think you're going to get for 4 annas?" Anyway, this is the thing. So even within ISKCON, we have to be careful because things can get deviated from a pure purpose of only to serve Krishna. Are we doing things so we get some money? Are we showing the deities just so we can get some money? We got to be careful. Sometimes people do sacrifices. This, it's a big deal. This is my commentary. It's a big deal in ISKCON. Now, if you're really serious, you do a fire sacrifice. Right? If you're really serious about something. Oh, okay. Well, we just read a few purports back that Srila Prabhupada mentioned that he says something like, greedy Brahmins perform these fire sacrifices, and for monetary gain, but they should know, they don't tell their people that actually the only sacrifice that's effective is the Sankirtan Yajna. These sacrifices are not going to get you what you want. They're mostly for show. Isn't that interesting? It was just a few purports back. You might have remember it. It's just for show. So, but the Sankirtan Jagya, that's the effective Jagya that'll actually give us the results that we're looking for, especially if we chant without any motive. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janamani share, bhavatad bhakti rahaitu kitaye. Oh, my Lord, oh, Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful of the opposite sex, nor to have any number of followers. What do I want? Let me engage in your devotional service, life after life. I don't even want liberation. That's Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya Shikshastika describes that the Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that same point here in the purport about how to keep our devotional service, and specifically here, hearing and chanting on a transcendental level, so that we can make spiritual progress in our life and become actually happy on the spiritual level. When Srila Prabhupada was in San Francisco, they had a marriage between Guru Das and Jamuna. You know this? Remember this? So anyway, they brought the fire ingredients together, and I think it was Malati. She thought, well, why ghee? Well, the Prabhupada said we should have ghee, but she said, so that she got some margarine, and they melted the margarine instead of the ghee. And we're going to use it they tried to use it for the sacrifice, right? So they poured the margarine, the liquid margarine. Prabhupada poured the margarine on the ghee, and what happened on the fire? And what happened? Just smoke, fizzle, nothing. And Prabhupada commented, "Oh, this marriage was going to have a very slow start." But anyway, that same principle, if you're the medium that you're trying to use is not pure, is not genuine, the result's not going to take place. You can do all kinds of adjustments you can try to make in your preaching, but if I are not serious and just trying to please Krishna, that's the main essential ingredient of our consciousness, then it's not going to work. We can adjust activities all kinds of ways, but without that determination as the motivating factor, how can I please Krishna? How can I please my spiritual master? The fire doesn't just sputters. No good fire comes. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Such a wonderful class. Really, really good points. Would like to ask devotees if any questions, any comments, doubts, clarification, please do unmute yourself. Dear Krishna just posted something. Thank you for the reminder about the right sacrifice for this age. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, verse 25, was reading with a few devotees just last night. To perform a sacrifice successfully, at least 4 expert priests are needed. One who can offer, hota, one who can chant, udgata, one who can kindle the sacrificial fire without the aid of separate fire, advaryu, and one who can supervise, Brahma. Such sacrifices were conducted from the birth of Brahma, the first living creature, and were carried on till the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthir. But such expert Brahmanas priests are very rare in this age of corruption and quarrel, and therefore in the present age, only the yagna of the chanting of the holy name is recommended. The scriptures enjoin Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Vakevalam, Kalo Nastevya, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyuta. Thank you for sharing that. That was really powerful. Yes. Any questions, devotees, please do unmute yourself, do share, or if you can, and if you can't speak because you're at work, please put it in the chat. Prabhu, I have a question, and as you was in the beginning of your class or somewhere in the middle, Prabhu, you were saying that one who is a pure devotee of the Lord is the one that should be speaking the Bhagavat, and even if they want to do the Bhagavad Sapta. And Sri Prabhupada towards the end used the word, the speaker is not Bhagavad Pradhan and the audience is not Shushushatam, as Prabhupada says. And Prabhu, how do we know? And when I looked up in the synonyms, those who are not receptive, how do we know that we are not? As individuals, how can we check ourselves? So how do we know when we are not receptive?
Well, there's a couple of examples it's a good question. Thank you. A couple of examples Srila Prabhupada gave in his own life, which was very instructive. He was sitting and hearing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and there was a gentleman behind him, an older gentleman, and he tapped Srila Prabhupada on the shoulder, and Srila Prabhupada turned around. There was during Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's discourse, and so Srila Prabhupada turned around, and he must have said something, or there was asked a question. The man was asking a question or something. So immediately, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta chastised them both. He said, "Oh, yeah, you think?" He said to the man who was asked behind Srila Prabhupada, "Oh, you think you can purchase me by your donation?" So that would give the example that just paying attention. We have to pay attention. Their attention was diverted, right? The attention was diverted, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta chastised them strongly. So Srila Prabhupada gave that as an example. So being attentive, even if we get distracted, still trying to be attentive. Bring ourselves back. There's so many other distractions that can happen when you're, at least during the time of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then another one Srila Prabhupada always would discuss is, when he went to Vrindavan and he heard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati speak. And sometimes people would come and say, okay, we're going to go to going to this parikram. We're going to go to the, Nandagram today. We're going to, but Srila Prabhupada would stay there, and other people would go on these different parikramas, but Srila Prabhupada would stay and hear from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So later, when he was recommended for initiation, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, "Oh, yes, I will accept him as my disciple. He likes to hear. So he likes to hear. Remember this? Remember this? Yeah. So he went on hearing. He went on hearing. He did so." Even though he didn't even understand sometimes, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's vocabulary is very elevated. It's not easy to understand. But he went on hearing. He went on hearing. And that was marked by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So that means it's marked by Krishna. It's noticed by Krishna that you continue to hear, even you don't understand. You still continue to pay attention, even though you don't necessarily understand. But just the vibration is purifying. So those two things I'd say. Maybe others have some idea.
Thank you, Prabhu. As you're speaking, Prabhu, now, and earlier in your example, I was reminded about the pastime of Vidur when he was banished and he went on pilgrimage, not for a vacation, but he went on pilgrimage to ask and hear from the sages, is what we were
Yes.
told. Yes, that mood of that character of wanting to hear and ask and hear and ask. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions from devotees? Because I do have one more question, but I want to make sure that someone else has a question than me. Prabhu, also, my other question, Prabhu, is we've seen and we've heard within ISKCON and outside of ISKCON, there's a lot of, not this whole Bhagavad Sapta going on for 7 days, right? And we've also heard that Prabhupada says that, one should be, the speaker is not a Bhagavad Pradhan. And I'm assuming someone is not in relation with the personality of Godhead. That is what Prabhupada said. But we also know that that one has to be very pure to speak on Bhagavad Sapta. How can we distinguish that, Prabhu, even within our society? Because everyone wants to speak on Bhagavad Sapta, and we think that because they're eloquent speakers, and we just get attracted to them. But how do we know that's the right thing to do?
Well, just like anything, to get a diamond, you have to know a little bit about a diamond. So anytime you want to know the bona fides of a speaker, are they following in the parampara system? Are they citing references to the Shastras and to their Srila Prabhupada, their spiritual master? And it's not that somebody can't receive a donation for there's the verse in Upadeshamrita, Dadati Pratiginnati Guyamakati Pichti Bhukti Bojayate Chaiva Shadvidham Priti Lakshanam. There's giving gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, giving prasad and offering prasad are loving exchanges that are exchanged between devotees. So somebody may give a talk or even a several-day talk on Srimad Bhagavatam, but is the purpose to get the money? Do they say ahead of time, "Oh, I'll come to your place if you give me $1,000"? If that's the case, you be careful. Be careful. Usually, the brahmana, even if they're doing some kind of medical service or astrological service or any kind of service, they're not allowed to ask to have a salary. They're whatever you want to give, that's very nice. You don't have to give. You can give me nothing. That's okay. But even if you give nothing, I'll still try to speak on the transcendental subject matters. That's the point. So be careful. We have to be careful a little bit about that. Professional speakers, Prabhupada says, it should be avoided in general. So professional means that they're basing their livelihood on that money that they're going to get or the remuneration they're going to get for their devotional service, supposed devotional service. Got to be careful about that. that slips in there. Srila
Yes,
Prabhupada
Prabhu.
didn't charge anything for the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
That's so true, Prabhu. He gave it so freely. He gave it so freely. Completely. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
And so sometimes it gets influenced. Like we will. I mean, you can have a restaurant for for prasadam, but at the temple, you want to give the prasadam freely. That's Krishna's mercy. Give it freely. Sometimes people, oh, you gotta. In New York, there were 500 people come to the Sunday feast back in those days. For the Sunday feast. So one administrator said, okay, now we're going to start charging $5. Everybody who wants a Sunday feast has to pay $5. Immediately, it was even we had a restaurant in the basement there in New York, and it was at that time it was $1.95 all you can eat, $1.95 prashadam. It was a nice prashadam, very nice prashadam, and we got people all the way down lined up all the way down the block for prashadam every day. So then the administrator said, okay, now we got all these people. Now we'll double the price, triple the price. And people got discouraged. Oh, they just were doing that just as a material kind of gimmick to get us hooked. So you got to be really careful about that. People's hearts are very sensitive. And they can tell when most people can tell, children can tell often, that what is your motive. One can be very good at hiding the motive, but usually it comes out, what is your motive? Are you actually interested in benefiting people without any strings, or you're really trying to use it for your own or your people's purposes to exploit people? In the material world, everybody's out to exploit everybody else. That's the way it is. But in Krishna consciousness, hopefully we can have the idea, become actually interested in benefiting people with the real thing without looking for it for any gain for ourselves.
195 is really amazing, bro. All you can
1970.
eat.
Of course, that was 1976.
Wow, Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Completely.
that's probably five. So it's about 5 times that now. So it's $10. $10. No.
Wow. Over a period of years. Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Any questions from devotees before we end the class? I know we've gone past the hour, but it's such a wonderful, really important topic. I feel was, at least for me, was very important. Thank you, Prabhu, for really addressing the point of receptiveness. That was definitely when you mentioned about Prabhupada's, how that guy was tapping him, was definitely a, very nice example. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that. And if there are no questions and answers from devotees, we thank you all for joining us, and thank you so much for a very, very deep class. Vanchakapatubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo,
Thank you.
Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.